Reports this Thursday night, Kurdish ground forces are being asked to join the war on Iran. How the U.S. president wants a say in choosing Iran's next leader, with the Pentagon possibly preparing for a months-long battle. The war's turbulent effect on air travel around the globe.
We're living in a world of travel disruptions.
The advice to anyone who has a flight booked. The trial aimed at breaking up Ticketmaster and Live Nation, while legal experts doubt it will lower ticket prices. Plus, gaining some prime mates. How things are looking up for Punch the Monkey.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The war the U.S. and Israel started in the Middle East continues to widen, and the U.S. president now says he must be involved in picking who runs Iran, even though the Trump administration has said regime change is not their aim. Iran is being hit hard by American and Israeli bombs and missiles. They say only military sites are targeted, but there are reports multiple hospitals have been hit, and a stadium in Tehran has been destroyed. Iran's foreign minister told NBC News Iran sees no reason to negotiate since it was in the middle of negotiating when the bombing began.
You were waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
In Beirut, there's gridlock on the streets after Israel's military warned hundreds of thousands of people to save their lives and evacuate immediately as it steps up attacks on Hezbollah, Iran's proxy force. Lebanon fast becoming a new front in this war. Iran continues to launch missiles and drones at its neighbors, including Israel. And today, Azerbaijan, hit by drones, says it is threatening retaliation. And there are reports of the first ground troops poised to move into Iran, Kurdish forces supported by the U.S. Jeff Semple reports from Turkey near Iran's northern border.
6 days of relentless U.S. and Israeli airstrikes in Iran have turned entire neighborhoods to rubble. Footage broadcast on Iranian and Chinese state TV shows targets including hospitals and a sports stadium. A U.S.-based human rights group says the civilian death toll has climbed above 1,000. I wish it didn't have to be like this. I wish the Iranian people could change our country ourselves, says this Iranian pro-democracy activist. He fled here to Turkey a decade ago after taking part in mass anti-government protests. He was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison, but managed to escape the country. His family is trapped in Tehran, but he's still grateful for the U.S. intervention. I am still very hopeful democracy is coming, he says. The result can't be any worse than before. It's widely believed the vast majority of Iranians feel the same way and want to overthrow the regime. But the U.S.-Israeli strikes are also fueling anger. I am very angry. We are suffering. They killed our precious supreme leader, says this Iranian, who's also now in Turkey. Her family is still stuck in the country. The Iranian regime has restricted internet and phone access, but she manages to reach a friend who's close enough to the border to access Turkey's cell network. He tells her stories of the horror and destruction. Trump is making war to distract from the Epstein files, she says. I sincerely wish that the Americans will send their troops into Iran so we can shoot them in the face. Instead of sending troops into Iran, the White House is reportedly considering a workaround, convincing Kurdish fighters to do the fighting for them. This is the Turkish city of Van, which sits right next to the Iranian border, and it's home to a predominantly Kurdish population. And the Kurdish people in this region now find themselves in Iran's crosshairs. The Kurds are a non-Arab ethnic group of more than 30 million people, one of the world's largest populations without their own state. They're indigenous to a region known as Kurdistan, which spans parts of Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and Syria, where they've repeatedly faced repression and violence for decades. The Kurds have long fought for their own autonomous state, and the Americans may now be dangling that prospect. The CIA has reportedly provided small weapons to Kurdish forces in Iraq. And the U.S. has been bombing Iranian positions near the Iraqi border. The White House is reportedly working to persuade the Kurds to join the fight against the Iranian regime.
I've seen this movie before. I've seen it many times now.
Experts note the Kurds have previously partnered with the U.S. against other regimes and the so-called Islamic State. The result? The Kurds have endured many losses and broken promises. We Kurds will not allow our national struggle to be hijacked by another country's war, says this Kurdish writer. We've learned our lesson and we want certain guarantees from the Americans. Perhaps anticipating an incursion, Iran has started bombing Kurdish communities in both Iran and Iraq.
It shows how these things very quickly spiral and bringing in more actors and having larger, effects.
The main Kurdish groups and the White House are denying those reports that Kurdish forces are preparing to join the fight, though President Trump said today he'd be all for it. Many are also watching the Turkish government's response, Donna. Ankara is notorious for cracking down on any push for Kurdish independence.
Jeff Semple in Vaughan, Turkey, thank you. The American president says he is not concerned about any backlash from Americans questioning the reasons the U.S. and Israel are attacking Iran. Donald Trump told the news organization Politico people are loving what's happening, and he claims the bombings are taking out a threat to the United States, though there is no evidence Iran posed an imminent threat to the U.S. Jackson Proskow reports on what the Trump administration is planning.
The pace of U.S. strikes shows no sign of slowing, targeting Iran's missile launchers and military, with bombs dropped directly from planes that now seem to fly through Iranian airspace with impunity.
So they have no air force, they have no air defense, all of their airplanes are gone.
As operations move to a new phase, there's still no clear answer as to how far President Donald Trump is willing to go, though he is clearly eyeing regime change and says he must personally be involved in picking Iran's next leader.
In the long term, the actions we're taking will dramatically increase the stability of the region.
If a true regime change is on the board, then how do you accomplish it with airstrikes and standoff strikes alone? And that's, I think, the biggest question facing the U.S. right now.
It is Congress that must decide war.
In Washington, there's growing pushback from lawmakers over the unknown scope of the conflict, but votes to limit Trump's war powers have been blocked by Republicans.
Congress must stand with the president and our military.
Some Trump allies are signaling their appetite for letting the president do what he wants does not extend to putting American boots on the ground in Iran.
My view has always been ground troops will require congressional authorization.
That would look a lot like 2003 in the Iraq War. I think the Trump administration is trying to avoid that scenario.
Whether they can is another matter. The president's desire for a quick and easy victory is quickly colliding with the toll on American lives and resources in a war that's estimated to cost the U.S. roughly $1 billion per day. Despite Trump's assurances that the war might only last a few weeks, there are signs the U.S. may be digging in for the long haul. Politico reports U.S. Central Command has asked for extra support for at least the next 100 days, but likely through September. Donna?
All right, Jackson Proskow in Washington, thank you. President Trump has fired his Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. Noem has faced a string of controversies and was under intense scrutiny from both Democrats and Republicans over a $220 million contract for border security ads. That contract was awarded to longtime Republican operatives. Noem was grilled about it this week.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly,
did the president
worked
know
with
you were going
OMB.
to do this?
Yes.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after, Trump told Reuters News in a phone interview that he did not sign off on it and knew nothing about it. Noem has also come under fire for her handling of Trump's immigration crackdown and the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens in Minneapolis. In a Truth Social post, Trump says Noem will now work as a special envoy for something called the Shield of the Americas. Trump named Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma as Noem's replacement. He's a former mixed martial arts fighter.
Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be 2 consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution, every poet?
No.
That's Mullen at a Senate hearing in 2023, picking a fight with the president of the Teamsters Union. The chair, Bernie Sanders, yelled at Mullen to sit down. President Trump describes Mullen as a MAGA warrior and a former undefeated MMA fighter who Trump says truly gets along with people well. Mullen will take over the role at the end of the month. Now back to the Middle East. Commercial flights are beginning to operate out of some of the airports that had been shut down. These passengers at Toronto's Pearson International Airport got a warm welcome from loved ones. They traveled on commercial flights that originated in Dubai. Many airlines have not resumed regular service to the region yet, including Air Canada. Traveling in and out of the Middle East is obviously not easy right now, and the disruption there is reverberating across other routes. And Gaviola looks into whether there's any protection or recourse for travelers who get grounded by conflict.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Back home in Hong Kong after an emergency flight out of Dubai.
Blasts were very loud. We actually physically saw one of the missiles from our hotel window.
Scenarios like this playing out in many countries. The Iran war threatens the $1.7 trillion global travel industry.
The levels of disruption that we're seeing right now, while maybe not on par with COVID, certainly start to approach it when you start to look at the scale and scope.
With March break just around the corner, many are wondering what to do about their booked flights.
We've certainly been very busy with a lot of inquiries of Canadians wondering, is it safe to travel?
Most major airlines have waived rebooking fees in light of the widening conflict in the Middle East. But it's worth contacting your underwriter or insurer before you travel to find out what's covered.
We're living in a world of travel disruptions, and to make sure that you've got some added peace of mind, booking that insurance can go a long way.
Staying updated on changing conditions goes a long way too. And that means paying close attention to notifications from your airline, the Canadian government, and local authorities. Citizens are encouraged to register their travel plans with the federal government to receive the latest alerts. First Venezuela, then Cuba, then Mexico, now the Middle East. 2026 has been a turbulent time for travel disruption. And this latest geopolitical disturbance is expected to push flight prices higher in the coming weeks. Experts say book sooner rather than later. Choose flexible options with good emergency coverage. And if in doubt, domestic travel is always an option.
We're really seeing strong interest in Canadians sort of like exploring their own backyard.
Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada was not consulted about the U.S. attacks on Iran and is not involved, though Mark Carney now says he would not rule out Canadian military involvement in helping allies defend themselves. And today, Canada's Chief of Defence said a meeting is set for Friday to discuss proposals should allies call upon Canada to help in defensive action. Mackenzie Gray is traveling with the Prime Minister and filed this report earlier today.
Mark Carney had hoped the focus of his trip to India and Australia, Donna, would be about trying to diversify trade. But Canada's shifting positions on Iran is overshadowing Carney's tour. After previously saying that Canada had no intention of getting involved militarily, Mark Carney is now taking a new approach.
One can never categorically rule out participation. We will stand by our allies when it makes sense.
Carney trying to say there's a difference between the offensive actions taken by the U.S. and Israel and defensive actions of trying to defend countries against Iranian attacks. Carney made the remarks alongside Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who came out with Carney strongly in support of the U.S. as soon as they happened. But since then, Carney has attempted to change his position on multiple occasions, including now seeming to harden his position on regime change in Iran.
We recognize, we stress, that cannot be achieved unless we're in a position that Iran's ability to acquire a nuclear weapon, develop a nuclear weapon, and to export terrorism is ended.
There has been substantial evolution in Canada's position, with Carney originally saying they supported the strikes and that Iran needed to de-escalate. Then Carney said he took that position with, in his words, regret, adding that the strikes broke international law, but he would not repeat the same claim that his defense minister made in Sydney, that Canada wants a ceasefire.
Before there can be a ceasefire, there needs to be a de-escalation of hostilities. Right now we have a spreading of hostilities.
A de-escalation that seems very unlikely, even by Carney's own metrics, Donna, after he said earlier this week that he believed it was predictable that the conflict was going to expand.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray in Canberra, Australia, thank you. Ticketmaster and Live Nation accused of propping up an illegal monopoly. Coming up, what a high-profile court case could mean for consumers. A trial that could change the way tickets are sold for live events is underway in New York City. The U.S. Department of Justice is suing Ticketmaster's parent company, Live Nation, accusing it of operating an illegal monopoly. Heather Yurix-West explains what's behind the allegations and how the case could impact consumers in Canada.
The company that produces tens of thousands of live shows worldwide, selling millions of tickets last year, says it does not have a monopoly over the concert industry, as Live Nation defends itself in court.
American law, monopoly power is just one part of the DOJ's case. The other part is showing that they excluded rivals in a way that's harmful to competition.
The U.S. Department of Justice is accusing Live Nation of dominating the industry by controlling everything from concert promotion to ticketing. Public outrage over how Ticketmaster handled pre-sales for the massive Taylor Swift Eras Tour in 2022 first prompted congressional hearings and bills across several states aimed at better consumer protections. But legal watchers have doubts this trial will result in any consumer benefits.
If there are going to be beneficiaries, it's going to be agents for concert performers. Now, if you're going to put on a concert, if you want to use Ticketmaster at all, you have to use only Ticketmaster. But the fact that you use more than one ticket agent, I don't think is going to necessarily lead to lower prices.
Live Nation maintains that artists and their team set prices and decide how tickets are sold. Last year, after UK singer Olivia Dean called out the company for allowing high-priced ticket resales, Live Nation imposed a face value exchange and offered to partially refund consumers who had already paid high resale costs. But frustration with the ticket seller persists globally. Last month, fans marched in protest in Mexico City after tickets for a BTS concert sold out instantly, only to reappear on resale platforms soon after. Heather Yurix-West, Global News, Calgary.
Economics of war ahead, how controlling oil transported through the Persian Gulf could reshape geopolitics. China is now reportedly in talks with Iran to allow tankers carrying crude oil and liquefied natural gas safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Transit through that narrow corridor has ground to a halt because of the war underway in the region. Oil prices have spiked. They're now above $80 US a barrel. Eric Sorensen explains why what happens in the Strait of Hormuz is having an almost immediate impact on gas prices in many countries, including Canada.
One thing is clear, big, slow-moving oil tankers are vulnerable in the Persian Gulf. The Iranians know it, threatening to attack all ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
From now on, all navigating through the Strait of Hormuz is forbidden.
The aim?
The Iranians are obviously trying to target energy-related, oil-related infrastructure to cause price spikes in a year of the U.S. midterms. It's the only weapon they really have to make the U.S. stop.
Gas prices have shot up everywhere, including Canada, by 10 to 15 cents a litre in Toronto. If oil prices keep rising, global inflation will rise, even for food.
A very material impact on inflation globally, which is why I think this conflict has ramifications all around the globe.
Roughly half of the world's oil reserves are in the Middle East. With Iran on one side and the Arab Gulf states on the other, the entire Persian Gulf is flanked by oil refineries and export terminals. That's why Bahrain is home to the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, with so many more U.S. Navy vessels in the region for this war. Normally, oil tankers carry 20 million barrels of oil each day through the Strait of Hormuz. It's 50 kilometers across, but the two-way shipping lanes are only 3 kilometers wide. An easy target where 20% of the world's oil is now down to just a trickle. Not just an economic impact, but geopolitical.
There is vast political power in play because of the richness of the area with oil and gas.
China imports an estimated 70% of its oil, with more than 1 million barrels a day coming from Iran. Controlling Iranian oil could help U.S. President Trump reshape the balance of power in the Persian Gulf.
There is a leverage that U.S. is pressing now.
But if oil prices remain high, the economic and political pressure on Trump at home will grow. Much depends on questions that can't be answered. How long will the war last? Who will lead Iran? And who will control its oil? Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Power is now coming back on across large parts of Cuba after a widespread blackout. About 2/3 of the country was hit by a blackout on Wednesday after one of the island nation's main power plants shut down. Much of Cuba's fuel used to come from Venezuela, but shipments stopped when U.S. forces captured Nicolas Maduro in January and took control of Venezuela's oil reserves. Punch makes progress. Next, why zookeepers say the monkey may no longer have to rely on his plush toy.
Here's the story of a lovely lady.
That brings back memories. If you're a certain age, it is the Brady Bunch, and they lived in this house. The LA home has long been popular with fans seeking photos. It's now been granted historic landmark status. The location on Dilling Avenue was used only for the exteriors of the TV sitcom. The interior scenes were shot on a soundstage. Zookeepers in Japan say Punch the monkey is outgrowing his orangutan stuffy. Images of the baby macaque seeking comfort in the toy went viral, drawing thousands of visitors to the zoo. Punch turned to the stuffy after he was rejected by his mother, and other monkeys in the closure didn't want much to do with him either. But now he is seeking out his stuffed animal. Not quite as much. Instead, he's been sitting with the adult monkeys, getting hugged, even groomed by them, and testing out his skills on the jungle gym with his new friends. That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is this family of teddy bears in Stony Plain, Alberta. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.